What can digital advertising do for business?
I think it can do everything. I think it's probably gonna be what's gonna make the business survive. So for me, it's a quite simple answer. I think it can do everything. I think it's not about if you need to be digital or you need to have a digital strategy. Or I think it's such an important part of your business. So I think the question is everything.
And what is a good way to track and measure whether it actually delivers everything to as a business?
I think it's a big question because there's many ways you can measure, and as I have said earlier, of course that's the advantage of digital, that we can measure everything. So it means that today we have the possibility, on each computer or on each IP address, we know exactly, how the person behind that computer or behind that mobile is interacting with us. That's how we can measure. So we know if they click on our banners, look at our advertising, interact with our Facebook app, or whatever they do. That's the whole cookie thing, which we all know about, and I probably think everybody is tired of. But it's also what makes it possible for us to measure everything. And no matter what campaign we are doing, if it's on traditional medias, banners, displays, or it's social, or it's mobile, banners, or whatever, Facebook, we measure it because we have the possibility of doing it. So yeah.
And what do you do with that kind of annoying people, just like me, for instance, who just delete their cookies every once in a while?
I think, again, one of the key issues is that, and especially in these days, because you're right that there is a lot of, a lot of mess out there, and there are so many messages we need to cope with every day. But I think as a brand or as a product, the most important thing is actually to be relevant. And as long as you're relevant and you give something to people they can use, I think you at least have a chance that they want to be in dialogue with you, and they're not going to delete their cookie, because as long as you give them something that is relevant and give them something they can use, at least you have a better chance of being in their mindset and being in their digital atmosphere. So I think that's probably the most important thing, relevant thing.
And can you mention some examples for tools that are simply the best to use when doing this tracking, looking for these insights?
Definitely, again, Google is probably one of the most important thing at the moment. I mean, the whole Google Analytics part, it's so important part of your marketing today, that you need to be on Google. You need to measure exactly how people, what are they searching for, how they're interacting with your brand, and that's what you do in Google Analytics. So I think Google Analytics is probably the most important. So everything we do, campaign, if it's a banner, whatever, we always have a tracking code. So we exactly can measure it in Analytics and see how it works. So again, Google is probably the most important. There are also others, as we measure also, of course, other things. But I think Google Analytics is for every company, and I think also for every company a must to have. So yeah.
And there's a lot of data out there, as you mentioned earlier. How do you risk not to drown in data? What do you do to make sure you measure on the right stuff?
Yeah, and that's a very, very good question, because that's what we every day with our clients, because you could actually kill yourself in data. And this whole big data is something that I see it in this way. I think it's important that because it is a great opportunity to have this data. But again, we also have to be sure that we're not killing ourselves in data. So it's about using the right data. And I think that's where we emphasize, in front of our clients, that we use the right data to the right stuff. But it's also a great opportunity to use this data in the right way, because then you are actually able, together with the data, together with the technologies, the platforms, you have a possibility of really making good communication that is engaging and relevant. So I think big data is really a big opportunity if you use it right. But I agree, you have to be really careful that you're not killing yourself in big data, and I think that's where we are right now in Denmark. That we have to find a way. How can we now? We know the big data are possible to get. We have the technology. How do you merge these two things? I think that's what we're going to see in 2014 being really something we definitely focus on in the marketing world.
And can you come with an example where you're actually using data right we measure on the right stuff, and that enables you to do something differently and be better in the future.
Definitely. I would like to mention a company who I think has done it right. And then I'll mention one of our clients where we are doing it also, I think, hopefully right. I think one of the best solutions right now where you have the big data used on the right way and you have the technology used on the right way is actually Danske Bank and their mobile payment. I think that this is a very good example of how they are using the data, big data, and they have the right technology and merging that and giving me as a client, and I'm not even a customer in Danske Bank, I could be, but I'm not, but I'm using it anyway because they're giving me something that is relevant for me, give me the information I need and I can use for something. So that's a really good example. For another example is one of our clients where we have built up a digital platform and we have a lot of data and we're trying to use that to be always relevant in relation to people buying more of our products. So it means that, you know, it's a big grocery company in Denmark, but it means that, you know, we just want people, we want them to be loyal to us, and a way of being loyal to us is of course to make it easy for them to buy their stuff, and that's why we help them all the way. We're using big data and seeing what do they normally buy, how do they normally, when do they normally buy, where do they go, and in that way try to personalize based on big data how they to make it easier for them, because we know everybody that it's not something we want to spend a lot of time on. So it's something we just want to, you know, get done. So I think using big data with the right technology, merging that to just, you know, be more relevant to people. That's where it makes it very fun and I think can make good results.